relationships are important. And when I talk about relationships in this context, I am not only talking about it from the level of the relationship with the electoral district. And so the discussions continue because we are about educating you in this election. We are about providing you with the information so that you can make the correct choice. And at the end of the day, I will tell you that the People's National Movement is in fact the right choice. We are about providing you with the information so that you can understand that in this election, you are to take no chances because this is about protecting your future. This is about letting you know that the People's National Movement and all 15 candidates on this platform have your back. And so, in this election, this is what it's all about. And so tonight, like the other speakers, as the political leader of the Tobago Council of the PNM, I want to take this opportunity to endorse the prospective candidate. And tomorrow morning, Monday, 15th of November 2021, he will in fact be the candidate for this electoral district. And so I have been observing Brian Thomas. I have looked at how he relates to the people in the electoral district. And I have concluded since the time I know him to now that he is a man with humility, that he is a community-driven person, that he is a father and a supporter, a mover and a shaker, and I know that he will represent you well in this electoral district of Bethesda, Lekoto. And so the last time I spoke to you as the political leader when we were campaigning, we were in this same community center. And at that time, I think the name of the electoral district was Darrell Spring Garden, if I'm not mistaken. And we had co-representatives from Plymouth, Blackrock at the time. And today, we have a name change. We now have Bethesda Lekoto. But at the end of the day, I want to tell you that it has nothing to do with the name change of the boundaries. It has nothing to do with the size of the electoral district. But it has to do with the kind of representation that we will ensure that you will have in this electoral district. And already you're seeing it from Brian. He understands the issues within the electoral district. He understands the needs of you, the residents. And the most important thing is that he has a plan of action that he will implement under my leadership as the political leader of the People's National Movement. And so all of us will give him that support. But most importantly, he is surrounded by two able-bodied men, by two able-bodied politicians. You have Kelvon Morris on the one hand and Larry Paul on the other. PNM. And I am sure as night make day that they will give him the support that he needs so that he can support this electoral district and ensure that there is full representation. This is what it's all about this evening. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I take the opportunity to inform all of you, Tobagonians, that in this election there are a number of factors that we ought to take into consideration. And first and foremost, we have to look at relationships with the people. We have to assess the relationship between the People's National Movement and, of course, other political entities. We have to assess the relationship between the Tobago House of Assembly and, of course, the central government. We also have to look at those who are putting forward themselves to become leaders of the Tobago House of Assembly and leaders of the Tobago people. And last but by no means least, we must look and assess and listen to the platform that has a vision, that has a plan for the people of Tobago. And I am sure that when we are finished with you on this side, you will reason that it is the People's National Movement as the only party and the only vehicle that can take us through the next 4 years. Because we have the experience, we have a vision, we have a plan, and most importantly, we have a relationship with the central government. And as I talk to you this evening, the people of Tobago, I want to remind you that we have always said from this platform that relationships are important. And when I talk about relationships in this context, I am not only talking about it from the level of the relationship with the electoral district residents. I'm talking about it from the context of the relationship with the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government, because we have to assess. Because at the end of the day, the purse is controlled by the central government, and we as Tobagonians want to ensure that we are able to get from that purse to continue our development, and that is what it's all about. And so if you were to put a PDP into office, I am sure that relationship will be broken. Because when we look at the PDP, ladies and gentlemen, all we see is chaos, bacchanal, and disrespect. Disrespect for even our own Tobago-born Prime Minister, who wants to ensure that Tobago is well represented in the central government and that we are able to achieve some of the benefits that are available in Trinidad and Tobago. But if it were that we have a PNM administration in Tobago and a PNM administration in Trinidad, I can tell you that of that relationship, there will be quite a lot of benefits for us. And we are seeing it all throughout the length and breadth of Ready. Look at how we travel between Trinidad and Tobago at this time. And we're talking about A-class ferries. And that is as a result of the relationship between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government. Look at what would have transpired when the UNC was in office in Trinidad and the PNM-controlled assembly was in Tobago. And so these are some of the things that you must take into consideration in this election, because relationships and collaboration are very important factors in determining whether your future can be protected or not. Look at how through the representation of central government along with the Tobago House of Assembly, we would have been able to build police stations, we have been able to fix fire stations, we have been able to fix and build an administrative complex in Roxborough. We have been able to build a hospital in Deep Tobago East, all because of that collaboration and relationship with the central government. So if nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, we must come out to protect and to ensure that that relationship with central government continues. PNM. And because our Tobago-born Prime Minister understands the needs of the people of Tobago, because he understands that we must be in a position to create further employment, he has negotiated on our behalf, along with his Minister of Trade, along with his e-tech company, to ensure that we can have brand new foreign investment here on this island. And for the time that I have been in politics to now, I have not ever seen those kind of benefits being accrued to the people of Tobago. And we ought to come out and vote for that. Because as I said, relationships in this election is very important. a Tobago-born Prime Minister in Trinidad, who will give support to a Tobago Chief Secretary, who will give support to a PNM administration so that our lives here in Tobago can be better. This is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. And there are other factors that we must take into consideration as well. And I'm talking about those who are putting forward themselves to become chief secretaries or deputy chief secretaries or prime minister in waiting, as the case might be. Because we have to look at their track record of performance. We have to look at the utterance that they have made when people's eyes were not on them. And we have to do the assessment, ladies and gentlemen. And let us look at the deputy political leader who wants to be chief secretary in this election. He says and does anything that is politically expedient, because at the end of the day, his focus is about becoming chief secretary. And so he will do and say anything just to sit in that seat. But I'm sure one of the things that you have recognized as a people is that whenever his back is against the wall, and whenever the chaos and the confusion start to reign within his party, he remains very quiet, not one single word. He had quite a lot to say about a zip line misleading the people of Tobago on every occasion, is lie after lie after lie. But when the PSA audit came out, that same deputy political leader was silent like a dumb dog in Jerusalem. And so we have to ask ourselves the question about who those who want to put themselves to become leaders of the people of Tobago and even the Tobago House of Assembly. And so one of the things I have surmised, and I'm sure you as a people have surmised as well, is that Farley is even afraid of his own boss. And you have heard his boss say it, that whatever comes out of his mouth is policy, and all of his other people have to fall in line. So where are we going with Farley as a chief secretary in the Tobago House of Assembly, when in fact his boss is the one who is going to pull all of the strings, and Farley would be the dumb dog in Jerusalem? And so we have to reject that, ladies and gentlemen, because the evidence is clear in terms of how his boss and political leader of the PDP has behaved himself in the public domain. And this is what it's all about in the election. We have to make the comparison with leadership. And so on this side, you have good people. You have honest people. You have people with a track record of performance. You have experienced leadership, people who have walked the talk with you, and people who understand what your needs are in the communities, and people who will ensure that they continue to represent you in your respective places. And this is what it's all about at the end of the day. Because we don't want a situation where people are talking from all sides of their mouths. We don't want a situation where one day political leader is saying something and the deputy political leaders have a different position. And we have seen it with the vaccine. So the political leader tells everybody, do not be vaccinated. The deputy political leader who wants to be the Secretary of Health is telling people, well, get vaccinated. But at the end of the day, what really is their position? Because the political leader has said he is the policy maker and he will determine what happens within their organization. And that is what it's all about in this election, ladies and gentlemen. And so can you trust the leadership of the PDP at this point in time, with all of them having everything and anything to say on different topics? No proper policy position whatsoever, no consensus within that organization whatsoever, no teamwork in that organization whatsoever. And when you look on the side of the PNM, we are going in one direction. And so that when we say that we will deliver 3,000 jobs, all of the assemblymen and eventually secretaries will work towards ensuring that they make their own contribution to ensure that we create 3,000 jobs. PNM. But on the other side, you would have a situation where one is saying that we're going to pay people ex gratia payment, that we're going to send home contracted officers, and none of the other deputy political leaders would be able to open their mouths to say that is not the direction that we will be going in. This is what it is all about, ladies and gentlemen. This is your future that we are fighting for. And you have to ensure that you come out and give support to Brian Thomas here in Bethesda, Lekato. You have to come out to ensure that you give support to Kelvon Morris in Darrell Springwim. You have to come out to ensure that you give support to Larry Paul. And of course, I know Brother Clarence is eagerly waiting to hear his name in the electoral district of Crown Point, Bonaccord. And this is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let the others fool you with their pie out of the sky ideas. Every day pulling something out of a hat and trying to hoodwink the people of Tobago, because they have no clear plan of action. They have no consensus. They have no teamwork, no vision in terms of where they want to take Tobago. And so we have to make the comparison. Relationships, collaboration, and leadership. We also have to look at where the PDP wants to take the people of Tobago. On this side of the People's National Movement, we are offering to you autonomy. And so what does that mean? It means that we could be big men and women in our own space. It means that we can have an additional parliamentary allocation in terms of funding for us to do our work. It means that we can have the kind of laws that we need in order to guide this unique space that we call Tobago. But let us look at what the PDP is offering to us. Secession, ladies and gentlemen, and I have to ensure I pronounce that word right. Secession. That is what they're offering to us. And so let me again tell you, the people of Tobago, what secession means. It really means that Tobago will have to go it on its own. You know, there is a song that says, no man is an island. So tell me, that song really doesn't mean anything for any of us? There is a reason why we get married. There is a reason why we count on other family members for support. It is because we recognize that as individuals, we cannot do it alone. But here it is that the political leader of the PDP is saying to us, the people of Tobago, let us ostracize ourselves from Trinidad. Let us sever and cut off our relationship from Trinidad. But I tell you tonight, the people of Tobago, I tell you tonight, the people of this electoral district, that if we only put God out of our thoughts, come the night or the day of December 7th, 2021, we will find ourselves in monkey pants. Because it will mean that we will no longer be able to tap into that $2.2 billion that we get from Trinidad. It means that we will no longer be able to access supplemental funding from the central government in Trinidad, because Watson will place us in a position where we have to go it alone. Where are we going to find $2.2 billion in the morning, ladies and gentlemen? The people of Tobago didn't ask for that. All you asked for in those over 2,000 consultations was a more enhanced and improved relationship with Trinidad. We didn't ask for federalism. We didn't ask for secession. All we said is that we want a greater opportunity from the purse. We want to be able to make our laws. We want to have representation on the Public Service Commission so that we could treat with issues of the public servant, so that we can treat with issues of the teachers in our communities. That is what we ask for. But the madman on the other side, running up and down the place, is saying to you, the people of Tobago, I want to be prime minister. And with becoming a prime minister, it means that we will no longer be able to benefit from anything that Trinidad has to offer. And so in that Tobago Autonomy Bill that the People's National Movement is offering to you since 1996, mind you, we have been fighting to get that autonomy. The Tobago Executive Council will be responsible to the Tobago legislature. But Watson Duke, on the other hand, with his cessation talk, would be in a position to dictate laws and would be in a position to be responsible for every service in Tobago. And if you are to make the comparison in terms of how he has been operating in the PSA, ladies and gentlemen, Lord, help us. And so this is what it's all about. Let us look at how our relationship with the central government has been treating with the air bridge and the sea bridge. Do you know that we don't pay the full cost of travel between Trinidad and Tobago? Let us look at where Grenada is to Tobago, and let us look at where Grenada is to Trinidad. Well, I know most of us have not traveled within the last 1 year or 2 years. But before the COVID, what was the price of a ticket between Trinidad and Tobago to Grenada? In some instances, it was as high as $2,500 for a 20-minute travel. The distance from Trinidad to Tobago is about the same. For those of you who travel on the plane, you would hear the pilot say, in about the next 15 or 20 minutes, we will be in Tobago. How much do you all pay for that leg of the journey? $300 round trip. But the same kind of kilometers or miles between Trinidad to Grenada cost us $2,500. And that is what we are going to lose if it is that we put God out of our thoughts and vote for the PDP come December 6th, 2021. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is serious business. This is not just about jumping up under the banner of the PNM. This is not about jumping up and saying to the people that Brian Thomas will win. This is about ensuring that you come out to protect your future. And the only administration that has shown consistently over time that it cares for you and that it will protect your future at all costs is the People's National Movement. At the end of the day, I know that we are not perfect. We are not a perfect people. We are not a perfect party. But one of the things that you will be guaranteed from all of us is that you will have stability and that you will have predictability, and most importantly, that you will be able to sleep comfortably at night, because we are not here to pull wool over anybody's eyes. And so this is what is up in front of us. And so we have lost so many benefits because of the personal agendas of the PDP-led Watson and Farley Augustine. And this is what it is all about. Bread and butter issues in Tobago at this time. We have to come out, ladies and gentlemen, and give that support. And I just want to add that the People's National Movement has ensured that we have built a solid foundation for each and every one of you. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the visioning where we are going to take Tobago. And every night I will remind you of some of those things that I have spoken about, and then I will add a few more. And so since the start of this campaign, and you have heard some of it from our speakers who have gone before, I said to you that we are going to create 3,000 jobs with the support of the THA and with the support of the private sector. And I've been laying out that plan since I've started talking to you. I have said to you that over the next 4 years, when we get into office, we are going to distribute over 2,000 lots of land. And we have started putting those mechanisms in place so that in the first 6 months of taking over the reins of the Tobago House of Assembly, we will start to roll out lots of lands for you, the people of Tobago. And we will be doing that in different categories, taking into consideration the daily pays, taking into consideration the teachers, taking into consideration the military personnel. This is where we're going. I have said time and time again that we will establish a division of information technology, that we are going to provide free daycare services for up to 2 children per vulnerable single mother household going forward, and that will free up resources so that our single mothers can go forth to study and lead a meaningful lives. I have said to you at the end of the day that we will create an investment agency because we want more foreign direct investment, just as the other countries of the Caribbean region, St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados. Some of you, when I meet on the streets, you would tell me, but you see how St. Lucia nice? Or you see how St. Kitts nice? Or you see how this country nice? We want to be nice so too. But those investments will not just fall out from the sky. We have to go look for those investments. I have said to you that we are going to focus on utilizing renewable energy here, and that the Tobago House of Assembly vehicles will be moving into that arrangement. I have said that we are going to work with the private sector to expand it by ensuring that we create those kind of incentives that will become the catalyst to a fully led private sector industry. 10 scholarships on a yearly basis, starting off in the first instance with specialist medical officers, and medical doctors rather, animators, persons in environmental management and engineering. Because those are some of the industries that we want to create going forward. We are going to treat with mortgages for low-income earners. We're going to monetize our culture, fashion, and film are big businesses in the world, in the in New York or USA, for instance, and even in Nigeria, in Lagos. Many of you follow some of those African movies, and we can have it right here too. They have Bollywood and all kind of wood, and we could have a Tobago wood at the end of the day. There is nothing wrong with that. That is visioning, my dear friends. And so we are going to look at agro-processing at Cove. We're going to attract airlines from Scandinavian countries. We're going to promote sport and culture tourism. And we are going to ensure that with the coming of the hotel and other hotels, that we provide capital assistance to farmers to produce things in watermelons and eggs and those kind of things that will give us employment or create employment opportunities and would drive agriculture for those businesses that are coming. And so going forward tonight, I want to add that we are going to recreate the whole finishing school concept. Of course, you would know it as the trade schools. But one element that we are going to add to that is to ensure that by the time those youngsters leave that school, that they are budding entrepreneurs. So we're not just equipping them with vocational certificates and tell them to go out there on your own. We are going to work with them through the business development unit to ensure that they're well trained, and most importantly, provide capital for them and hold their hand so that they can set up businesses, create employment, and of course lead meaningful lives, because we're talking about wealth generation for people at the end of the day. Tobagonians have the opportunity to be rich. We will create the environment and the catalyst so that you can thrive.
PNM.
I just want to say to this community here tonight, the community that Brian Thomas will lead, that playing field will not fall on deaf ears under my leadership, because I know that it is something that the residents of this electoral district, especially in Golden Lane and Lekato, have been clamoring for the longest time. I have been with Mr. Adams, who was the former area representative, up and down looking for land, and I understand now that we are closer to the process of finding the land and ensuring that the Tobago House of Assembly can purchase the land and develop it so that we can create sport men and sport women in that community. And I give to you that pledge this evening. And so under my leadership, your candidate and eventually assemblymen will represent the needs of you, the sport enthusiasts in this electoral district. I just want to add, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to distribute over 300 acres of agricultural land at Belmont and Friendship Estate. Because when we say food security, we mean food security. Opportunities are coming. The hotels are coming. We want people to plant, but some will come to me on public day and they would tell me, yes, I have my badge, but I don't have no land, and I like the agriculture. And so for those who are very serious in mind, the Tobago House of Assembly will provide over 300 acres of land to those who would want to farm. And this comes on the heels of Access Road development, ladies and gentlemen. And it comes on the heels of all the work that we have been doing in the Division of Agriculture to ensure that our farmers are well taken care of. And then, of course, as I traverse the length and breadth of the electoral districts and throughout Tobago, I hear the constant complaint. And of course, Brian alluded to it. We have drainage issues. I want my drain over here to fix. I want the drain behind so to fix. I'm getting flooding out over here. And so we will create a community infrastructure unit to look at those small but impactful community projects so that we can once and for all eliminate some of those issues that you, the residents, have within your community. And then last but by no means least for tonight, in terms of the visioning, we are going to collaborate with the central government to ensure that we can have at least one marina in Tobago by 2025. Because this in itself opens up other opportunities for people in terms of employment as well. And so when I say to you that we're going to create 3,000 jobs, ladies and gentlemen, the plan of action is here. We are not about sending home contract workers. We are not about bullying daily paid workers. We are about creating the environment in which other people who are not now employed can flourish. And you have heard from the Chief Secretary, there is nothing wrong with an individual having 2 and 3 jobs in Tobago. And that time will come. Those opportunities will come under the People's National Movement. And so you've heard of some of our achievements from former speakers, Larry Paul, Kelvon Morris, and even Brian Thomas, and our Master of Ceremonies for tonight. And you have heard from me in terms of some of our vision, and I will talk more as the campaign progresses in terms of where we are going to take Scarborough in the beautification exercise. And there are big and exciting plans to come under the People's National Movement. But I want to remind and say to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, we can't afford to take any chances. PNM has the vibe. PNM has the energy. PNM has the vision. And most importantly, PNM has the experience. And all that we require all of you in the electoral district to do in this electoral district, in Palateville, Lansome, Speyside, in Roxborough, Argyle, in Signal Hill, Patience Hill, in Belgarden, Pembroke, in Darrell Spring Wim, in Plymouth, Blackrock, wherever you are, is to go out and support solidly the People's National Movement. There is no other in this election at this point in time. The others are traveling on sinking ground. But with the People's National Movement, you are traveling on solid ground. And so I encourage all of you to wake up, everyone who is over the ages of 18 and everyone who is registered. I urge every one of you to call out your grandmother, your neighbor, your sister, your uncle, your aunts, your nenen. Even though you might have a physical challenge on the day, the People's National Movement will provide that vehicle for you to get to that polls. And when we have over 2,000 votes from this electoral district and another 2,000 votes from the other electoral districts, we would only sing in one refrain when we jumping up on the night of the 6th, that great is the PNM, great is the PNM, we shall and will always prevail. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Be safe, because there is COVID out there, but don't let that stop us from coming out on the 6th and registering your support for the PNM. I thank you. God richly bless you.
Take no chance. Protect your future. On December 6th, vote PNM. Great is the PNM.